Have you ever wondered why a woman can feel deeply connected one moment and completely shut down the next? Why desire doesn't always follow logic or timing? The truth is, female arousal isn't a simple switch. It's a symphony. And yet, so few women have ever been taught how their own instruments play. Arousal begins long before the body responds. It starts in the mind, with how safe, seen, and emotionally understood a woman feels. That's not psychology. That's physiology. When the brain senses safety, it signals the body to open. When it senses stress, it shuts down that same system. It's not about being in the mood. It's about being in alignment, mentally, hormonally, emotionally. If we truly want to understand female arousal, we first have to unlearn almost everything society has taught us about it. For decades, research centered almost entirely on male sexuality. Linear, predictable, driven by a clear sequence of desire, arousal, climax, and resolution. But female arousal is not a straight line. It's a circle, a feedback loop, a living conversation between the brain, body, and heart. It doesn't begin with lust. It begins with connection. It's not about intensity. It's about depth. Biologically, both men and women share the same basic sexual structures, only arranged differently. The clitoris and penis originate from the same embryonic tissue, both dense with nerve endings, both designed for pleasure. But here's what's fascinating. While the visible part of the clitoris is small, beneath the surface it extends inward like a wishbone, wrapping around the vaginal canal and the urethra. This structure has over 8,000 sensory nerve endings, double what the penis has, and each of those nerves connects to deeper pelvic networks that intertwine with emotional and hormonal centers in the brain. That means women's pleasure is not just physical, it's neurologically expansive. It engages more areas of the brain than male arousal ever does. In men, arousal tends to follow a straightforward biological cue. Testosterone triggers desire, blood flow increases, and the body responds almost instantly. In women, it's a slower dance between hormones, emotions, and context. The limbic system, the emotional brain, must first feel secure. Then the prefrontal cortex, the logical brain, releases control. Only then can the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's relaxation response, activate and allow blood flow to the genitals. That's when lubrication, sensitivity, and pleasure truly awaken. It's not about friction. It's about flow. Think about what that means. For a woman to become aroused, she must feel safe enough to surrender. Her body cannot open in stress. When she feels judged, rushed, or emotionally disconnected, the body literally shuts off blood flow to the clitoris and vagina. The same mechanism that diverts circulation from digestion during danger diverts it from arousal. Stress is the silent killer of desire. That's why emotional safety isn't a preference. It's a biological requirement. The male body, in contrast, is designed for rapid readiness. It's a survival advantage. The sympathetic nervous system, which triggers fight or flight, can coexist with male arousal. But in women, that system and sexual arousal are biological opposites. You can't be anxious and aroused at the same time. The same hormones that protect a woman from danger also protect her from intimacy when her body doesn't feel secure, Dr. Jennifer. Berman often says that the female sexual system is an orchestra. Every section must be in tune. The mind, the hormones, the circulation, the emotional environment, all must harmonize before the body plays. And when they do, the experience of pleasure isn't just localized. It floods the body with oxytocin, dopamine, and nitric oxide. Oxytocin deepens bonding, dopamine amplifies joy, and nitric oxide relaxes blood vessels, enhancing sensitivity and flow. That's why, for many women, arousal feels not just like excitement but like expansion. The female brain is wired to link arousal with meaning. That's not weakness. That's complexity. It's nature's way of intertwining pleasure with connection, ensuring that intimacy reinforces emotional bonds. A woman's pleasure has the power to reshape her nervous system. It calms anxiety, boosts immune function, and even regulates her menstrual cycle. But when the system is ignored or suppressed, the effects ripple far beyond the bedroom. Hormones tell much of the story. Testosterone, though present in smaller amounts, is vital for desire. Estrogen maintains vaginal tissue, elasticity, and lubrication. Progesterone stabilizes mood, while oxytocin fosters trust. Yet modern stress, sleep deprivation, and endocrine disruptors constantly interfere with this delicate balance. Cortisol, the stress hormone, blocks estrogen receptors and dulls sensitivity. It's why so many women report low libido even when they crave connection. Their bodies are too busy surviving to open for pleasure. Blood flow is another essential key. The clitoral network depends on vascular health, just like the heart. If circulation is compromised, through sedentary habits, poor diet, or hormonal imbalance, arousal becomes harder to achieve and sustain. Movement, breathwork, and pelvic floor exercises don't just strengthen muscles, they wake up the entire sensory system. Every heartbeat that reaches the pelvis is a message of vitality. The nervous system plays its own mysterious part. The pudendal, pelvic, and vagus nerves carry sensations from the genitals to the brain. The vagus nerve especially is unique. It bypasses the spinal cord entirely, linking the pelvis directly to the emotional centers of the brain. That's why female orgasm can sometimes trigger tears, laughter, or deep calm. It's not just pleasure, it's nervous system release. Culturally, we've framed female desire as elusive or mysterious, but that's only because we've studied it through a male lens. We've expected women to respond to stimuli that weren't designed for their bodies or their brains. We've told them to perform instead of feel, and in doing so, we've muted the natural language of their own arousal. The truth is, female arousal doesn't always start with desire. For many women, physical stimulation precedes psychological arousal. The body awakens first and the mind follows. This is called responsive desire, and it's completely normal. Yet so many women believe something is wrong with them because they don't feel in the mood instantly. Nothing is wrong. They simply have a different biological sequence. Understanding that difference is liberating. It means arousal is something that can be nurtured, not forced. It means intimacy is not a race but a rhythm. And it means pleasure is not about perfection, it's about presence. So how does one nurture this biological symphony? It begins with awareness. Awareness of breath, of sensation, of emotional state. When a woman pays attention to her body's cues, she learns the difference between tension and readiness, between shutting down and opening up. That awareness rewires her nervous system to favor relaxation, the gateway to arousal. Next comes hormonal harmony, natural light exposure, consistent sleep, balanced nutrition, and movement. All of these stabilize estrogen and testosterone levels. Foods rich in magnesium, zinc, and omega-3s support blood flow and nerve function. Even small rituals, massaging the lower abdomen, deep breathing, or taking mindful moments of pleasure, signal to the body. It's safe to feel again. The clitoris, unlike the penis, is not an external organ of utility, but an internal organ of exploration. Its only function is pleasure. Every nerve, every structure, every pulse of blood within it exists to translate sensation into awareness. When that awareness is embraced rather than shamed, a woman reconnects not only with her sexuality, but with her vitality. Emotional intimacy fuels biological readiness. When a woman feels truly seen, without expectation, without pressure, her body remembers how to respond. The mind releases oxytocin, lowering stress hormones and increasing sensitivity. It's not the words alone that create arousal. It's the feeling of being emotionally safe inside those words. For many women, the process of awakening arousal begins alone. It begins with curiosity, with exploring what sensations feel good without judgment. Self-touch, when approached with mindfulness, is not indulgent, it's educational. It's a conversation between the body and the self. And in that conversation, many women rediscover a power that was never lost, only silenced. The differences between male and female arousal reveal an essential truth. Women are not difficult. They are designed differently. Their pleasure system evolved to ensure deep connection, not quick release. Their arousal depends on context, safety, and meaning, not just physical friction. And when those conditions are met, their potential for pleasure surpasses anything linear. Dr. Berman's message is clear. Female arousal is not a mystery to be solved. It's a biology to be honored. When women learn to listen to their bodies, to respect their pace, and to create environments where safety and curiosity coexist, their arousal flourishes naturally. Imagine what would change if every woman understood that her arousal was not broken, but brilliant. That her desire was not inconsistent but intelligent. That her body's rhythm was not slow but sacred. Female arousal is not a destination. It's a dialogue. Between mind and body, between fear and freedom, between survival and surrender. It is the language of life itself, whispering through blood, breath, and heartbeat. You are safe. You are alive. You are worthy of pleasure. Why does a woman who feels loved and emotionally safe respond so differently from one who feels pressured, unseen, or judged? Why can the same touch that once brought warmth suddenly feel distant or mechanical? The answer lies in the invisible bridge between the mind and the body, emotional safety. You can't touch a woman's body without first touching her trust. Her nervous system needs to know she's safe before her body will allow pleasure to flow. Emotional safety isn't just a concept. It's chemistry. It's biology. When a woman feels understood, respected, and valued, her brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. Oxytocin lowers cortisol, the stress hormone, and allows her muscles to relax. Blood flow increases to her skin and genitals, sensitivity heightens, and her mind becomes more open to connection. Her body begins to say, "Yes, I can let go now." That's arousal in its truest sense. Not just the body reacting to touch, but the mind surrendering to trust. In contrast, when there's tension, fear, or emotional disconnection, the opposite happens. The amygdala, the brain's fear center, lights up. The body's priority shifts from connection to protection. Blood flow is redirected away from the genitals and toward the limbs, preparing for fight or flight. It doesn't matter how skilled or gentle the physical touch is, the body will not respond. This is not a matter of willpower, it's pure physiology. You cannot make love while the body is bracing for survival. Emotional safety tells the nervous system, you can rest here, and rest is the doorway to pleasure. A woman who feels emotionally safe doesn't need to perform or pretend. She can simply feel. She's no longer monitoring her body's appearance, worrying about judgment, or analyzing her partner's reactions. She's present, and presence is the soil where desire grows. Dr. Jennifer Berman often explains that emotional connection is not an accessory to arousal. It's the foundation of it. When trust exists, the brain's reward centers light up, releasing dopamine and endorphins that amplify physical sensation. Pleasure becomes layered, not just skin deep, but heart deep. This is why women often say that intimacy feels better when they feel emotionally close. It's not in their heads, it's in their hormones. For many women, arousal begins long before any physical contact, in the tone of voice, in the look in the eyes, in the way they're spoken to or listened to. Emotional foreplay is not poetic. It's neurological. Each small act of care, a genuine compliment, a patient pause, an act of empathy, builds safety in the nervous system. Each one says, "You're safe to open." Emotional safety is also built on consistency. The brain learns through patterns. If a woman experiences trust followed by betrayal, her body will remember that inconsistency. Her nervous system becomes cautious, her muscles guarded. The mind may want intimacy, but the body won't allow it. Healing that requires patience, not persuasion. It means showing up again and again with gentleness, so the body can rewrite its story. This time, it's safe. Arousal cannot coexist with anxiety. When a woman feels emotionally unsafe, her brain releases norepinephrine and cortisol, chemicals that constrict blood vessels and blunt sensitivity. Her body's natural lubrication decreases, and arousal becomes harder to sustain. In contrast, when she feels cherished and protected, nitric oxide levels rise, relaxing those same blood vessels and increasing sensitivity. This isn't romance alone, it's biology at work. Imagine the difference between being touched out of obligation versus being touched out of care. The same gesture, a hand on the shoulder, a brush of the lips, can either soothe or startle, depending on whether trust is present. Emotional safety transforms touch from mechanical to meaningful. It turns contact into communication. A woman's sense of safety also determines how her body interprets sensation. When she feels emotionally secure, the same touch that once felt neutral can now feel electrifying. Her brain no longer filters sensation through fear. It translates it through pleasure. That's because the prefrontal cortex, responsible for logic and inhibition, quiets down, allowing the limbic system, the emotional center, to take the lead. Pleasure expands when control dissolves. For partners who want to build that level of trust, it's not about grand gestures. It's about presence, listening without interrupting, asking rather than assuming, respecting boundaries, even when they're inconvenient. Each act of respect reinforces safety. Each moment of patience tells her nervous system, "You're in control here." And that sense of control is what allows her to finally let go. Emotional safety is also about self-connection. A woman who doesn't feel safe within herself, who carries shame, guilt, or unresolved trauma, may struggle to receive touch even from someone she trusts. Her own body feels foreign. In those moments, safety begins with self-compassion. It means recognizing that her pace is sacred, her boundaries valid, and her comfort non-negotiable. Dr. Berman often reminds women that arousal isn't something you earn. It's something you allow, but you can only allow what you trust. When a woman starts to rebuild trust in her partner, her body, or her intuition, her entire biology begins to shift. Her heartbeat slows. Her breathing deepens. The body transitions from defense to openness. The skin becomes more sensitive, not because of magic, but because the brain is no longer filtering sensation through threat. Emotional safety also feeds desire outside of intimacy. When a woman feels emotionally supported in daily life, appreciated, not taken for granted, her body stays more receptive to pleasure. Her hormones balance more easily, her stress hormones stay lower, and her sense of self-worth grows. Safety doesn't just prepare her for physical closeness. It sustains her vitality. There's a reason women describe emotional intimacy as foreplay. The mind-body connection is so strong that even subtle emotional disconnection can halt arousal. When arguments go unresolved, when vulnerability is dismissed, when affection feels conditional, her nervous system remembers. Healing those moments takes more than apology. It takes empathy and consistency. Touch without trust feels empty. But when trust is there, even the smallest touch feels alive. The body opens like a flower responding to sunlight. The difference isn't in technique. It's in the energy exchanged. When a woman feels emotionally safe, her body no longer asks, "Am I safe?" It begins to ask, "How deeply can I feel?" That's the shift from survival to surrender. Emotional safety is also what allows exploration. When a woman feels secure, she's more open to new experiences. Not because she's trying to please someone, but because curiosity replaces fear. This is where true intimacy blossoms. When two people explore not out of pressure, but out of playfulness and trust. That's where freedom lives. In long-term relationships, emotional safety must be continuously nurtured. It's not built once. It's renewed every day. Simple acts, checking in after conflict, offering reassurance, being present without distraction. Keep that sense of safety alive. Without it, even the strongest chemistry fades. With it, even small moments become magnetic. For women healing from past betrayal or trauma, rebuilding emotional safety can take time. The nervous system must relearn what peace feels like. It means moving slowly, creating spaces where the body can relax without expectation. Trust grows in quiet moments, not in pressure, but in patience. Emotional safety also reshapes how a woman views her own body. When she feels respected, she stops seeing her body as something to perform with and starts seeing it as something to experience through. Her focus shifts from, "How do I look?" to "What do I feel?" And that shift transforms her entire experience of pleasure. Science supports what ancient wisdom has always known. Love and safety are intertwined with the biology of desire. When a woman feels emotionally safe, her body doesn't just respond, it thrives. Her skin glows differently, her laughter comes easier, her energy feels lighter. That's because her body is no longer carrying the weight of defense. Emotional safety and physical touch are not separate languages. They are dialects of the same one. Touch speaks to the body, but safety speaks to the soul. When both are present, the experience transcends pleasure and becomes connection. In the end, emotional safety is the most powerful aphrodisiac there is. It can't be faked, rushed, or demanded. It has to be earned through empathy, sustained through honesty, and deepened through consistency. When a woman feels safe, she doesn't have to choose between her body and her heart. She can finally bring both into the same moment. And that's where true intimacy begins. Because physical touch might ignite the body, but only emotional safety keeps the flame alive. It's not the hands that awaken her. It's the feeling of being held without fear. And when that happens, her body doesn't just open. It trusts. It blooms. It remembers what it means to feel whole. Every woman's body is a living rhythm, a beautifully complex orchestra where hormones play every instrument. They're invisible, but their influence touches every heartbeat, every emotion, every wave of desire. When they're in harmony, a woman feels alive, grounded, sensual, confident. But when they fall out of balance, she feels like she's lost her connection to herself. Hormones like estrogen, testosterone, and oxytocin are not just chemical messengers. They are the language through which the body expresses pleasure, trust, and love. Estrogen is often called the queen hormone, the one that brings vitality, softness, and flow. It's responsible for maintaining the health of the vaginal tissues, enhancing blood flow, and heightening sensitivity. When estrogen levels are optimal, the body feels supple, responsive, and ready to connect. It helps the brain produce serotonin, the feel-good neurotransmitter, creating an overall sense of emotional well-being. That's why, during certain times in the menstrual cycle when estrogen peaks, many women notice they feel more confident, more open, and more in tune with their own sensuality. But estrogen is not only about physical readiness. It's also about emotional attunement. High estrogen increases activity in areas of the brain responsible for empathy and social bonding. It makes women more responsive to emotional cues and more sensitive to connection. In other words, it amplifies both the body's and the heart's capacity to feel. When estrogen drops, whether due to stress, aging, or hormonal fluctuations, women can feel disconnected from that flow. Lubrication decreases, sensitivity dulls, and mood changes arise. It's not that the desire disappears. It's that the body loses its biological readiness. Many women blame themselves or think something's wrong, when in reality, it's simply chemistry. Restoring estrogen balance, through lifestyle, nutrition, or medical care, often rekindles that spark. Because the body once again receives the message, you're alive, you're vibrant, you're capable of pleasure. Testosterone, often labeled as the male hormone, is just as essential for women. It fuels sexual desire, motivation, and confidence. It's what gives a woman her drive, not only in intimacy, but in life. When testosterone levels are balanced, energy feels strong, ambition is clear, and the body feels powerful. When it's too low, women often describe feeling flat, fatigued, or emotionally dulled. Testosterone enhances blood flow to the clitoris, heightening arousal and sensitivity. It also activates dopamine pathways in the brain, the same ones that control reward and excitement. That's why balanced testosterone helps a woman feel spontaneous, adventurous, and confident in expressing what she wants. It's not about being aggressive. It's about being fully alive. Modern stress, however, often depletes this balance. Chronic cortisol elevation, the stress hormone, suppresses testosterone production. The body cannot produce stress hormones and sex hormones at full strength simultaneously. The result? The brain chooses survival over pleasure. Over time, this can lead to fatigue, low libido, and emotional numbness. It's not that the desire disappears, it's that the body is protecting itself from exhaustion. Restoring testosterone isn't only about biology, it's about energy. Rest, strength training, healthy fats, and moments of deep pleasure all help the body naturally produce more. When a woman allows herself to slow down, to breathe, to reconnect to her body, her hormones respond. The body always listens. And then there's oxytocin, the heart's hormone. It's the glue that binds love, trust, and emotional intimacy. Every hug, every act of affection, every look of genuine care triggers oxytocin release. When oxytocin flows, the body feels warm, safe, and open. It's the hormone of connection, the silent signal that tells the body, you belong here. Oxytocin isn't just about love. It's about safety. It lowers blood pressure, calms the nervous system, and reduces fear. That's why, in moments of emotional intimacy or deep trust, a woman's entire physiology shifts. Her heartbeat synchronizes with her partner's. Her breathing slows. Her body softens. These aren't metaphors. They're measurable biological responses. When oxytocin levels are high, the body prioritizes bonding over defense. Pleasure deepens because the brain interprets touch not as stimulation, but as connection. It allows vulnerability to feel safe. It's also the reason why emotional betrayal or emotional neglect can hurt so deeply. It's not only psychological pain, it's a biochemical wound. When trust breaks, oxytocin drops, and cortisol spikes in its place. The body shifts from connection mode back to survival mode. Oxytocin's influence extends far beyond intimacy. Acts of kindness, shared laughter, eye contact, even listening deeply can increase its levels. It's the hormone of empathy, of knowing and being known. Dr. Berman often says that oxytocin is nature's reminder that we were never meant to experience pleasure in isolation. It's the biology of belonging. Estrogen, testosterone, and oxytocin don't work separately. They dance together. Estrogen creates sensitivity and flow. Testosterone ignites desire and confidence, and oxytocin builds safety and connection. When they're in balance, a woman's entire being feels aligned, body, mind, and soul working in harmony. When one falls out of tune, the others try to compensate, and that's when imbalance appears. Mood swings, low libido, fatigue, irritability, anxiety. These aren't random symptoms. They're the body's way of whispering, "Something's missing. Please listen." What's remarkable is how these hormones respond to lifestyle and emotion. Sleep, movement, nutrition, and connection all shape them. A single night of poor sleep can lower testosterone. Chronic stress can suppress estrogen. Loneliness can drain oxytocin. But just as easily, a deep conversation, a good laugh, or a heartfelt embrace can restore them. The body is always seeking balance, always trying to return to harmony. A woman's menstrual cycle offers a window into this symphony. During the follicular phase, estrogen rises, bringing energy and brightness. Mid-cycle, testosterone surges, enhancing desire and assertiveness. After ovulation, oxytocin and progesterone increase, promoting calm and nesting energy. Each phase offers a different expression of femininity: vibrant, magnetic, nurturing, or reflective. Understanding this rhythm allows a woman to align with her natural flow instead of fighting it. When hormones fall out of sync, it's easy to think something is broken, but imbalance is often just a sign that the body is overworked, undernourished, or emotionally unsupported. Healing begins with compassion, with giving the body what it's been asking for: rest, nourishment, connection, and care. Hormones respond to how we live and how we love. Dr. Berman often reminds women that hormones are not the enemy of aging. They are the foundation of vitality at every stage. Menopause, for example, is not the end of desire but a transformation. As estrogen and progesterone decline, the body's chemistry shifts, but the potential for pleasure does not vanish. It changes form, requiring more intention, more emotional connection, more self-awareness. With support, women can rediscover deep, fulfilling arousal at any age. What truly matters is understanding that these hormones are not random chemicals. They're messages. Estrogen says open. Testosterone says move. Oxytocin says trust. When those messages are received and respected, a woman's body begins to heal. She feels grounded, balanced, and awake to her own sensual intelligence. There's something deeply empowering about realizing that your biology is on your side. Every emotion, every cycle, every change in energy is communication, not dysfunction. When you treat your hormones with curiosity instead of frustration, you begin to see them as allies. The balance of estrogen, testosterone, and oxytocin teaches one of life's most profound lessons. Pleasure is not random. It's designed. It's a biological reflection of safety, connection, and vitality. When a woman lives in sync with her hormones, when she honors her body's natural needs for rest, nourishment, and intimacy, she begins to glow from within. The science of hormones is really the science of harmony. It shows us that pleasure isn't something to chase. It's something that emerges when the body feels safe enough to receive. Estrogen softens the body, testosterone energizes the spirit, and oxytocin opens the heart. Together, they form a triad of power, not just sexual power, but life force itself. A woman in hormonal harmony radiates an energy that cannot be faked. She doesn't just feel desire, she embodies it. Her presence becomes magnetic. her confidence natural, her joy effortless. That's not vanity. It's vitality. It's the glow of a body that's no longer at war with itself. These hormones remind us that pleasure is sacred biology. When a woman listens to her body, honors her emotions, and nurtures her inner rhythm, she doesn't just awaken arousal, she awakens life. Because hormones, at their deepest truth, are not about reproduction or cycles. They're about connection, to others, to the world, and most importantly, to herself. Blood flow is life. It carries warmth, energy, and oxygen to every part of the body. And nowhere is this more essential than in the realm of arousal and pleasure. The heart and the genitals are not separate worlds. They are connected through an intricate network of vessels and nerves that respond directly to emotion, breath, and attention. Pleasure, at its foundation, is a circulatory event. When blood flows freely, the body awakens. When it doesn't, even the most tender touch can feel muted or distant. In women, arousal depends on this increase in blood flow. As the heart pumps faster and vessels dilate, the tissues of the clitoris, vulva, and vaginal walls become engorged, just like erectile tissue in men. This swelling heightens sensitivity, allowing every touch, every movement, every rhythm to feel amplified. It's not just about lubrication, it's about awakening the sensory network. Without adequate circulation, that network stays dormant, like a radio waiting to be tuned. What's fascinating is how blood flow follows attention. When a woman feels emotionally engaged, safe, and curious, her body naturally directs more circulation to the pelvis. Nitric oxide, the molecule responsible for relaxing blood vessels, begins to flow. It's the same chemical that allows the heart to open and the body to feel warmth and readiness. Nitric oxide is the bridge between desire and sensation. Without it, pleasure feels distant. With it, the body hums with life. Dr. Jennifer Berman often explains that arousal is not just about anatomy. It's about energy. Blood flow carries that energy. When stress, fatigue, or hormonal imbalance restrict circulation, arousal becomes harder to sustain. The tissues lose responsiveness, the nerves lose clarity, and pleasure feels harder to access. Many women mistake this for lack of desire, when in reality, their body simply isn't getting the physical support it needs to feel. Nerve sensitivity plays an equally vital role. The female sexual anatomy contains thousands of sensory receptors. The clitoris alone holds over 8,000 nerve endings, all converging in networks that extend deep into the pelvis and connect to the spinal cord and brain. These nerves don't just transmit sensation, they interpret it. They're storytellers, translating touch into meaning, warmth into intimacy, rhythm into release. When blood flow increases, these nerves become more active. Oxygen nourishes them, pressure activates them, and their messages to the brain become clearer. The result isn't just physical pleasure, it's emotional resonance. That's why a woman can feel both physical and emotional release during intimacy. Her nerves are not only sensing, they're communicating directly with the emotional centers of her brain. The vagus nerve, in particular, is a bridge unlike any other. It connects the pelvis directly to the brainstem, bypassing the spinal cord, carrying information straight to areas responsible for emotion, trust, and calm. This is why deep, connected pleasure often brings tears, laughter, or a sense of peace. The body isn't just responding to touch, it's releasing stored emotion. Pleasure becomes healing, a language of restoration. However, when blood flow is poor or nerves are understimulated, that connection weakens. Sensations feel faint, distant, or inconsistent. Stress constricts vessels. Sedentary lifestyles limit circulation. Tight clothing, chronic sitting, even shallow breathing can all reduce the oxygen supply that nerves need to thrive. The body wants to feel, but it's deprived of the fuel that turns potential into power. This is why movement is not only good for health, but essential for pleasure. Exercise boosts circulation, strengthens the pelvic floor, and increases nitric oxide production. Practices like yoga, dance, and mindful breathing don't just tone muscles, they wake up pathways of energy that lead directly to the genitals and brain. The more alive the body feels, the more responsive it becomes. Pleasure, then, is not only a sexual response, but a circulatory expression of vitality. When the heart is open, literally and emotionally, the body can give and receive sensation fully. When blood pulses freely, the tissues respond with ease. The genitals, often seen as isolated organs, are in fact mirrors of overall health. When circulation is poor, they are the first to show it. When vitality is strong, they are the first to bloom. Many women notice changes in arousal during different life phases: pregnancy, postpartum, menopause, and often, these shifts are directly linked to changes in blood flow and nerve function. During menopause, for instance, estrogen declines, leading to thinner vaginal tissues and reduced circulation. The solution is not shame or resignation, but care, movement, hydration, mindful touch, and sometimes medical support to restore blood flow and elasticity. The body is resilient. It wants to return to balance when given the chance. Nerves also thrive on attention. Just as muscles strengthen when used, sensory pathways grow more responsive when engaged. Regular, mindful touch, even outside of sexual activity, helps maintain nerve health. Self-exploration, massage, or even deep breathing focused on the pelvis stimulates blood and oxygen to flow where it's needed most. The more a woman learns to listen to her body, the more her body learns to respond. Dr. Berman emphasizes that many issues women label as low libido are actually circulation and sensitivity issues. The desire is present. The pathway is muted. Stress, medications, and lack of movement all constrict blood vessels and dull nerve endings. Addressing these physical roots often revives not only pleasure, but confidence and energy. When a woman experiences pleasure, her heart rate increases, her breath deepens, and her blood vessels dilate. The body enters a state of flow, quite literally. Every organ benefits from this process. Blood delivers nutrients, removes toxins, and signals the release of endorphins and dopamine. The afterglow of intimacy, that feeling of peace and satisfaction, is the body's way of thanking itself for allowing energy to circulate freely. The connection between blood, flow, and emotional openness is profound. When a woman is anxious, her body tightens, her breath shortens, her muscles constrict, her circulation slows. The genitals are among the first areas to lose warmth. It's the body's ancient way of conserving energy in perceived danger. This is why emotional safety and trust, as discussed earlier, are prerequisites for pleasure. Safety signals the brain to open blood vessels, to restore warmth and flow, to invite sensation back in. There's also a spiritual dimension to this. Blood carries more than oxygen. It carries energy, the rhythm of life itself. When circulation moves freely, so does vitality, creativity, and joy. Pleasure, in this sense, is not just about sex. It's about aliveness. The same pathways that bring arousal also fuel inspiration, intuition, and self-expression. A woman disconnected from her pleasure often feels disconnected from her creativity too, because both rely on flow. Nerve sensitivity is shaped over time by experience, attention, and even belief. When a woman feels shame or fear around pleasure, her nervous system contracts. Nerves can become desensitized, not only by lack of stimulation but by emotional suppression. Healing requires reawakening, slowly, gently, without pressure. The more the body feels safe to experience sensation, the more it opens to it. Massage therapists and researchers alike have observed how subtle changes in circulation can alter a person's emotional state. A warm touch increases blood flow, which in turn stimulates oxytocin, which calms the nervous system. The cycle feeds itself. Warmth leads to relaxation. Relaxation leads to more flow, and more flow deepens pleasure. This is nature's feedback loop for connection. Pleasure is also deeply tied to the pelvic floor. This region of muscles not only supports organs, but regulates blood flow and nerve function in the genitals. When the pelvic floor is tight or weak, circulation diminishes. Gentle strengthening and relaxation exercises, like Kegels or deep squats, help reawaken the area. But the goal isn't tension, it's balance. A relaxed, responsive pelvis allows blood to move freely and nerves to communicate clearly. Arousal, therefore, is not something that happens to the body. It's something the body creates when it feels nourished and alive. Every heartbeat, every deep breath, every pulse of blood is part of the process. When you feel that warmth building from the inside, that's your body saying, "I am ready to feel." This understanding changes everything. It means that pleasure isn't mysterious or unreachable. It's biological and trainable. When you move your body, when you breathe deeply, when you allow yourself to relax, you're literally opening the pathways that make pleasure possible. The more you nourish your circulation and sensitivity, the more your body remembers how to respond. True satisfaction comes from integration, when the heart, the nerves, and the breath move as one. When the mind stops chasing and starts listening, the body's signals are ancient. They've always known the way. The question is whether we slow down enough to follow them. Dr. Berman reminds women that blood flow and nerve sensitivity are reflections of how well they are caring for their overall health. A healthy heart supports a healthy libido. A calm nervous system supports deeper arousal. It's all one system, one river flowing through the same body. So when you think of pleasure, think of it not as something external or mechanical, but as an expression of circulation. Every pulse of blood, every tingle of sensation, every breath that fills the lungs is part of the same symphony. When that flow is honored, through rest, movement, trust, and curiosity, pleasure becomes effortless. And maybe that's Have you ever wondered why the most unforgettable moments of intimacy aren't always the most physical ones? Why sometimes just a look, a tone of voice, or a simple touch feels more electrifying than anything else? That's because real arousal doesn't live in the body alone. It's born in the mind and shaped by emotion. The human body may respond to touch, but the mind decides whether that touch feels safe, meaningful, or transcendent. The bridge between those two worlds, mind and body, is where intimacy truly begins. Arousal starts as a physical event, but it becomes intimacy only when it's infused with awareness, emotion, and connection. You can stimulate the body, but unless the mind feels invited, there's no true depth. The body might respond mechanically, but it's the mind that gives permission for pleasure to unfold. It decides whether to open or close, whether to surrender or protect. This is why the brain is often called the most powerful sexual organ. It interprets, amplifies, and colors every sensation we experience. Dr. Jennifer Berman often explains that the female brain is wired for connection before it's wired for arousal. That means emotional alignment. Feeling seen, heard, and valued becomes the foundation that allows physical pleasure to take root. Without that alignment, stimulation can feel empty, even alienating. But when trust and emotional safety are present, the brain releases oxytocin and dopamine, creating a feedback loop of relaxation and desire. The mind tells the body, "It's okay to feel," and the body responds with warmth and openness. The body and mind communicate constantly, though most of that dialogue happens below conscious awareness. When a woman feels emotionally connected, her nervous system shifts into a state of receptivity. Her breath slows, her muscles soften, and her heart rate synchronizes with her partner's rhythm. This state of attunement, when two nervous systems mirror each other, is what scientists call co-regulation. It's not just poetic, it's biological. Co-regulation allows both partners to feel safe, which opens the door to deeper arousal and ultimately, intimacy. But the opposite is also true. When the mind feels stressed, judged, or unsafe, it sends signals that close the body. Adrenaline and cortisol rise, constricting blood vessels and numbing sensitivity. The same body that could experience deep pleasure instead goes into protection mode. The body isn't failing, it's obeying the mind. The mind says, "Not safe," and the body listens. This is why so many women struggle with arousal even when they want intimacy. Not because they lack desire, but because their nervous system is guarding them from vulnerability. Pleasure requires presence. The mind must be in the same room as the body. Yet, in our modern lives, distraction has become the enemy of desire. We carry our thoughts from work, stress, and social media straight into our intimate moments. The body might be touched, but the mind is elsewhere, calculating, worrying, observing instead of feeling. Real intimacy begins when thought gives way to sensation, when the mind stops controlling and starts listening. This mind-body harmony is what transforms arousal into something soulful. When the brain quiets and the body awakens, time seems to slow down. Every breath, every heartbeat, every sound becomes amplified. The body stops being an object of performance and becomes a vessel of experience. That's when pleasure turns into intimacy, when it's no longer about achieving something, but about being with something. The brain and body communicate through a network of hormones and neurochemicals that translate emotion into sensation. Dopamine fuels desire and anticipation. Oxytocin deepens trust and attachment. Serotonin stabilizes mood. And endorphins create the sense of bliss that follows release. These chemicals weave emotion and biology together so tightly that they can't be separated. When a woman feels emotionally connected, her brain literally enhances physical pleasure. When she feels disconnected, her brain dulls those same sensations. In research on women's arousal patterns, scientists have observed a fascinating truth. While physical stimuli can trigger blood flow and lubrication, the perception of pleasure depends entirely on psychological context. The same touch can feel passionate in one moment and intrusive in another. The difference is mental state. The mind's interpretation determines the body's response. This is why emotional presence, empathy, and patience are as powerful as any technique. Dr. Berman often emphasizes that for women, foreplay begins in the mind, not in the bedroom, but in how they feel throughout the day. When a woman feels respected, appreciated, and emotionally supported, her body remembers that energy later. Small moments of kindness, affection, or laughter build the hormonal environment where arousal can thrive. Emotional intimacy primes the brain's reward pathways, so when physical touch finally arrives, the body is already halfway there. It's also important to understand that the brain stores emotional memories in the body. The pelvic muscles, the breath, even the heartbeat can hold traces of past experiences, both pleasurable and painful. If those memories involve shame, rejection, or trauma, the body may unconsciously tense or shut down. Healing, then, becomes a process of retraining the mind-body connection, teaching the body that touch can be safe again, that pleasure can be trusted. This process is slow, gentle, and sacred. It requires patience, compassion, and presence. Meditation, mindfulness, and breathwork are powerful tools in this healing journey. They help bridge the gap between thought and sensation. When a woman breathes deeply during intimacy, she signals her nervous system that she's safe. The parasympathetic response activates, lowering stress hormones and allowing pleasure to flow. Awareness of breath also draws the mind into the present, preventing it from wandering into self-criticism or performance anxiety. In that stillness, the body's natural rhythm reemerges, unforced, unhurried, whole. The mind-body connection also reveals why fantasy, imagination, and anticipation play such a big role in desire. The brain doesn't always distinguish between imagined and real stimuli. If an image or thought feels emotionally charged, it can produce the same physiological arousal as touch. This is why mental stimulation, words, stories, emotions, can ignite physical sensations. The mind paints the scene and the body responds. Arousal is the language both speak fluently when they trust each other. When the mind and body fall out of sync, intimacy feels fragmented. The body might move, but the heart isn't in it. The mind might crave connection, but the body feels numb or hesitant. Repairing that disconnection takes awareness. It means slowing down, noticing sensations without judgment, and giving yourself permission to feel without rushing toward a goal. When touch becomes communication instead of performance, the body relaxes. When the mind feels safe to surrender, the body responds naturally. There's a reason ancient traditions like Tantra and Taoism viewed sexual energy as spiritual energy. They understood that the same life force that fuels arousal also fuels creativity, intuition, and joy. When the mind and body unite in pleasure, something beyond the physical occurs. A merging of energies, a recognition of wholeness. Intimacy becomes not just connection with another person, but connection with oneself. Dr. Berman often says that women who are in tune with their bodies are more confident, resilient, and expressive. They move through the world with a quiet power because they've learned to listen to their own signals. That self-knowledge is born from the mind-body relationship. When a woman trusts her body, she no longer fears vulnerability. She understands that her emotions and sensations are not distractions, they're guides. In neuroscience, this integration is sometimes called embodiment, the ability to experience thought and emotion through the body instead of outside of it. Embodiment means not just thinking about feeling, but actually feeling while thinking. It's the moment you stop observing your experience and start inhabiting it. That's the essence of intimacy. It's not something done to you. It's something you participate in fully, with awareness and curiosity. To strengthen this connection, attention must replace assumption. When you're with someone, ask yourself, what am I actually feeling right now? Where in my body is that emotion living? Is my breath shallow or deep? Is my body open or closed? These small moments of awareness bring the mind back into the body, bridging the gap that modern life so easily widens. The mind-body connection also explains why love can feel like energy moving through you. The rush of warmth, the flutter in your chest, the tingling skin. These sensations aren't metaphorical. They're literal expressions of neurochemistry and circulation responding to emotion. The body translates the language of the mind into movement and vibration. When love is present, every cell seems to participate. Pleasure deepens when the mind stops analyzing it. The more we chase the perfect experience, the more elusive it becomes. But when we surrender to the moment, when thought and sensation merge, the body takes over. The mind becomes quiet, the heart expands, and connection becomes effortless. In that state, intimacy becomes something more than pleasure. It becomes understanding. Two people, or even one person alone, meeting themselves fully, without walls. This is the transformation Dr. Berman speaks of when she says that arousal is not just about sex. It's about aliveness. When the mind and body learn to speak the same language, every part of life becomes richer. Food tastes better, music feels deeper, touch becomes sacred. Intimacy,